Everyone that has a side hustle will be affected.
Change is coming for millions of gig workers. Now that goes into effect in March.
They're trying to push it down into a minimum wage job. You should get paid by tips.
This also includes people that drive for Uber, Lyft, and even DoorDash.
Well, under this law, Uber gets to avoid paying their workers when they do not have someone in their vehicles.
Everything goes into an effect March 11, 2024. Here's what you need to know right now.
Now, in tandem, the Labor Department also rescinding a Trump-era rule today that had broadened the classification of independent contractors. The revamped rule means easier access to benefits, protections, overtime, higher wages, and more.
The Biden administration issues a rule that could curb gig work and contracting. Let me break down exactly what that means. The U.S. Department of Labor on Tuesday issued a final rule that will force companies to treat some workers as employees rather than less expensive independent contractors, in a move that has riled business groups and will likely prompt legal challenges. The rule is widely expected to increase labor costs for industries that rely on contract labor or freelancers, such as trucking, manufacturing, healthcare, and app-based gig services. I know that this is crazy news so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, if you guys don't know, app-based gig services are services like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Uber Eats, so on and so forth, because there's so many apps that people are independent contractors and they're essentially having these apps replace their jobs, or they have it as a side hustle for additional income on top of their jobs. No matter how they have it structured, let's quickly break down the meaning of a gig worker.
Gig is actually a slang term, meaning a job for a specified period of time, but it's found its way into mainstream business vocabularies as more and more communities trend toward a gig economy. A gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common. Freelancers, independent contractors, project-based workers, and temporary hires all fall under the title gig workers and are found across every industry. Gig employees could be writers, rideshare drivers, photographers, accountants, realtors, handymen, programmers, tutors, artists, dog walkers, really anyone who enters into formal agreements with a company to provide services without being on the company's payroll.
Many of those people will become employees of those same exact companies with new laws and rules. This means as an employee of some of these companies, you will also qualify for some of these benefits, like healthcare benefits, paid overtime, and even workman's comp. It also says that most federal and state labor laws, such as those requiring a minimum wage and overtime pay, apply only to a company's employees. Studies suggest that employees can cost companies up to 30% more than independent contractors. The rule will require that workers be considered employees rather than independent contractors when they are economically dependent on the company. Now, California has already put something like this in place not long ago called Prop 22. Let's see how that's going so far.
This is the beginning of the end of worker protections.
Prop 22 is probably the most dangerous labor law that has been passed or voted on in my lifetime.
I'm very disappointed.
Some full-time drivers like myself are doing, I think, something like 90% of the rides.
It's going to be hard to survive.
This is so important, guys, because if you take a look at what has happened in California after the passage of Prop 22, you can really understand and grasp how disastrous this Trump-era rule would have been for workers across the country.
He says that Proposition 22 will make it impossible to earn a living driving full-time. They're trying to push it down into a minimum wage job. You should get paid by tips.
He's right about that. And unfortunately, after Prop 22 passed, many of the drivers who were promised all sorts of perks and benefits found themselves getting quite the opposite. Well, under this law, Uber gets to avoid paying their workers when they do not have someone in their vehicle. So if they're on the road looking for someone to give a ride to, they're not getting paid for that time.
Now, it's still early in California with their Prop 22, and we'll see if this is also going to have any effect on California in general with this new law. But either way, it still gives us an idea of what things are going to look like in the future. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people are thinking that this is going to be a positive thing, and some people think this is going to be 100% negative. Let's go over a few of the pros and cons of this taking place. Now, there are some pros of this happening, like affordable healthcare benefits, workman's comp, paid overtime, minimum wage salaries, protections like basic insurance while working. You may be able to create a union. You also have unemployment insurance as well as Social Security benefits. Now, those are most of the pros for people who are essentially looking to have that job feel or that job safety net in a sense, as opposed to being an independent contractor. But that doesn't mean you're not going to have any cons like filing a W 2 versus a 1099. Now, filing a W 2 is not the end of the world, as we all know. However, you're not going to be able to get some of those same deductions that you would as you were when you were an independent contractor. Also, as an employee, the company could also always either lay you off, let people go, fire people, just like any other job. Let's not forget why you started the side hustle in the first place, so you can have your own set hours. That may change as well depending on how much people are actually working and how long throughout the day that they're working as well. Now, the Labor Department has said that the rule was designed to crack down on industries including construction and healthcare where misclassification of workers is common, but its potential impact on app-based delivery and ride-hailing services whose business models depend on contract/gig labor has garnered the most attention. Companies including Uber and Lyft have expressed concerns about the rule, but have also said they do not expect it to lead to their drivers being classified as employees. C.R. Wooters, Uber's head of federal affairs, said in a statement that the new rule does not materially change the law under which we operate. Drivers across the country have made it overwhelmingly clear in their comments on this rule and in survey after survey that they do not want to lose the unique independence they enjoy, Wooters said. Now, honestly, I do see some benefits by being the employee of a company, but at the same time, if a person wanted to do that, they would have simply applied for a different type of job. You are essentially taking away their ability to be an independent contractor and work when they want to work as long as they want to work. And so when you take that away from people, it essentially puts them in a position where they're forced to feel like, well, if this feels like a job, I may as well go back to a job or do something different. Another news article said that nearly 40% of US workers, or more than 64 million people, did some freelance work in the past 12 months, according to a December survey by freelancing marketplace Upwork. Now, just because a person is a freelancer, regardless of what they do, if they're an artist or if they work for a company sparingly, as an independent contractor, it doesn't necessarily mean that a person is equipped to actually work for that company. You still have to go through the hiring process, the drug testing process. So it's going to be really interesting to see how a lot of these companies start to respond to this because, as we know, it's election season. A lot of things tend to happen around election season. And so we want to see how all this plays out. Now, no matter what you want to call it, people in America are looking for more ways to make additional income, especially with inflation being as high as it is, especially with people having credit card debt, especially with interest rates being at a certain point. It's nothing wrong with having additional income. The problem is that when people are now trying to do things the right way and have it where they work with these multiple apps or freelance work or whatever they're doing it to make a better lives for them and their family. So it only makes sense that we start with that top of mind. If people want to be an employee, they will simply opt to be an employee. But if they don't want to, especially for a specific company, it's not best that we make it look like we're trying to force people into these regulations. Overall, I hope this ends up working out in everyone's favor because that's why a lot of people started these side hustles, not to only make additional income on the side, but a lot of people have turned this into their full-time income. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you thought this video was great, I'll see you at the next one.